Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful Shabbat. I am Rabbi Miriam Terlinchamp, and I'm joined tonight by Rich Hordinski and our Just Love band. We call this service Shabbat-ish because the purpose of it isn't to pray in a standard liturgy like you would in a prayer book or if you were in a synagogue space, but to welcome Shabbat in energy, with deep introspection, with good music. And what you'll see is primarily music that is based on liturgy that we've written ourselves, written by Rich Hordinski, and a lot of poetry and things like that. And the whole hope is that you let go a little bit of time and try to let the energy of Shabbat, of God's time, enter you and emerge renewed, restored, and ready for action. So with that, we'll begin with the watchword of the Shabbat-ish service, which is "You are not alone." Breathing it in, trying to sing it back out, and reminding ourselves that the purpose of community, connection, belonging starts with understanding that I am not alone and you're not alone because we're in this together. We continue with the prayer of welcoming. We always welcome Shabbat as if she were a bride. That's what we say. And usually we do so by singing Lecha Dodi, or we welcome her as an angel with Shalom Aleichem. And tonight what we're going to do is welcome her officially with words that we sing at a wedding. We say the words, Ani ledodi v'dodi li. I am my beloved and my beloved is mine. And usually we say this as part of the central wedding ceremony. And what we're doing is we're trying to wrap ourselves around the other person, binding ourselves to the other. And we do it 7 times in 7 circles with 7 blessings with the hope that we're mirroring the 7 days of creation. Understanding that in every moment and with every other human, there's a chance of creation, of making something new, something beautiful, and something bold. So we continue with Ani ledodi v'dodi li.
Adori
The words of the Shema are considered the holiest of all of our prayers. Hear, O Israel, Shema Yisrael, we call out. And by Israel, we mean ourselves. We mean our Jewish community. We mean the land. We mean the history. We mean the past and all the trauma and the loss. And we also mean the future, all of the promises still yet to be realized. Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. Adonai is our God, and our God is one. We are saying we are all connected. We are witnesses to the miracle of being alive, and we honor that miracle with the understanding that we are connected to one another. And it is through action and prayer that we can walk out our faith. As we join together in Shema, try taking a full breath with each of the words, weighting each one with its own power, and hold on ourselves. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. We follow Shema with the words of the V'ahavta, translated as, and you shall love, teaching us how to live out our Shema prayer of oneness and center ourselves around the actions that connect us back to God. Tonight I share with you the rendition that is creative of V'ahavta, written by Rabbi Richard Levy of blessed memory. If we can hear the words from Sinai, then love will flow from us, and we shall serve all that is holy with all our intellect and all our passion and all of our life. If you can serve all that is holy, we shall be doing all that humans can to help the rains to glow, the grasses to be green, the grains to grow up golden like the sun, and the river to be filled with life once more. And all the children of God shall eat, and there will be enough. But if we turn from Sinai's words, making gods of our own comfort or our power, then the holiness of life will contract for us. Our world will grow inhospitable to rains from heaven, and the produce of the earth will not be ours. In this spirit, we remind ourselves of the power of love and prayer and action in the process for healing. We pray for refuah shlema, a complete healing of body, mind, and soul for all those who are struggling. We pray for those in hospital beds, in nursing facilities, and those in their own homes. We pray for those struggling with difficult decisions, those battling addiction, and those of us who are carrying burdens of the heart. We pray for all the vulnerable in our own families, community, country, and world, with special attention to those facing terror in Israel and the Palestinian territories, those in India encountering massive COVID outbreaks, and the Rohingya people whose hardships continue to unfold. And with that same heart, we remind ourselves of the power of healing and possibility brought forth by nurses and doctors and therapists and caregivers and family and friends. In our community of Temple Sholom, we hold in our healing prayers Mira Barner, Corinne Belford, Deborah Birch, Sheila Boniface, Karen Bunyan, Rana Suker, Ellen Danelsky, Rabbi Alexander Duchovny, Jean Hauser, Phyllis Fine, Ken Goldman, Arnold Gottman, Charles Gutman and Judith Gutman, Bob Grossman, Jonathan Grossman, Rob Hill, Jim Hochberg, Ken Hughes, Peli Yankovic, Michael Jordan, Yael Kraus, Lee Krinick, Jennifer Hall, Elaine Heitfield, Zila Gershon Ben Hanoch Lieb HaKohen, Grayson Malkin, Eleanor Menschkow, Joan Lieb, Barry Levy, Leslie Lisnick Pate, Eva Manici, Vincent Manici, Marcy Maxwell and Ginny Meyer, Lou Meerman, Benji Sayre, Sarah Singer-Nori, Phil Ryan, David Rose, Daniel Rosen, Larry Rubin, Jeff Sawyer, Ira Shum, Boris Shurkin, Rosalie Segal, Louis Simon, Barry Simon, Pat Sinervo, Archbishop Chuck Smith, Mahaya Stoneman, Jim Tanner, Patty Walt, Stu Warschauer, Joyce Zakem, Chaim ben Yaakov Nechama, Chava Nasiah bat Chaya Yisraela. To all these names, we add our own, as we were all on a journey towards wholeness in our own ways, and healing is the path towards peace for each of us. Baruch atah Adonai Rofecha Olim, blessed you Adonai, who brings forth healing.
So I'm a very peripheral and, what's the word I'm looking for? Tentative member of a group called the Zen Peacemakers. If the pretentiousness of the title isn't enough to throw you off, then I think it's worth talking about. It's an interesting group because they have what I think is one of the most interesting premises of anything I've been a tentative member of. And they have 3 tenets, which seem completely contradictory, as you might guess. The first tenet is not knowing, admitting that you don't know. The second tenet is bearing witness, which means that I take it to mean, even if you don't know, pay attention. The third one, which might be the most contradictory yet, is take action. So I think the balance in there is the idea that even though you don't know, you still bear witness. And even though you don't know, you take action in the best way that you think possible with the information that's available to you. I know when there's conflict, whether it's conflict between countries, whether it's conflict between people, whether it's conflict between governments, that it can be paralyzing to feel like you don't know all the answers. But I think the greatest mistake is to not do anything because you feel like you don't know everything. Even if you don't know everything, you can still do something. And I think that is part of where this song goes. And this is called Bow Down.
If you go out walking, you better look just right. It's a dangerous world if your color ain't light. Lost a friend and a brother, another star that won't shine. His only crime is being any place at almost any time. Are you gonna stand straight? Are you gonna lie down? With your eyes wide open or stare at the ground. Gonna open up your ears or shout the trumpets down. Are you gonna stand when the roll is called, or are you gonna bow down? I'm scratching this in stone, making my mark like a stiffening scar or a matchstick in the dark. I'm lighting a fire in the middle of town. Are you gonna stand when the roll is called, or are you gonna bow down? Are you gonna stand straight? Are you gonna lie down? Keep your eyes wide open or stare at the ground. Gonna open up your ears or shout the trumpets down. Are you gonna stand when the roll is called, or are you gonna bow down? Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Okay, I'm going to talk about Israel. I feel really tense about what I'm going to say, mostly because as a Jew, I understand that, like it or not, I have to have a position on Israel, be prepared to discuss what's happening for good or bad, and then reconcile those feelings with my own direct experiences in the land. All Jews in the diaspora must engage with Israel in some capacity. And we can run the gambit in opinions on American policy and practices, but when most of us hear the news about Israel, our spines stiffen, alert to what is being said about us, not us. It's this unique component of our religion that we're a tribe with a faith who has a land, kind of. Perhaps you feel strongly you can speak unequivocally about your opinions on Israel, but maybe you're more like me and feel unsure of how to talk about this strange push-pull connection we have with the land of Israel. So I'm going to talk about Israel tonight. Israel, which is both us and not us. And my thoughts about Israel are always in formation, and I'm open to dialogue, of course. But I want to try, because I think it's essential to try to break through silences we keep because we feel uncomfortable to admit that we don't know enough in our head, or we don't know enough in our heart, or we don't know enough in our actions, what to think, feel, or do when it comes to the conflict over there. Last night, my mother sent me a short video of a friend living in Israel. And it was of rockets flying over the civilian zone in Yaffo, which is protected by the Iron Dome, who thankfully destroyed most of the rockets. And within a few moments, it wasn't hard for me to find a similar kind of video, a footage of all the Palestinian pain and death. Children in both places in bunkers, military solutions to political issues, with horrific costs being paid by civilians. And right now, it's almost impossible to find out what's actually happening in Israel and the Palestinian territories. All the facts reduced to sound bites devoid of nuance. The language about what is happening overseas seems to be either murder of innocent, peaceful civilians, or it's anti-Semitic to criticize Israel when she's trying to defend herself from suicide attackers and terrorism. There's a space between those truths, and it feels really wide, nebulous, and silent. How can we talk about Israel and Palestine, about occupation, about justice and peace and love and homeland and loss and what it means to be a Jew in the diaspora, and grapple with all of it without a third way of understanding this conflict that doesn't force us to an either-or truth? Middle East or Midwest, this need for a nuanced perspective about the world is something that each of us has a responsibility to pursue. We live in a world that values absolutism. You're in or you're out, you're an oppressor or you're oppressed, it's them or us. And there's little reward in our current climate for nuance. Yet truth is almost always nuanced and messy and uncomfortable. It's so easy to get lost in the binary argument of good versus evil and allow ourselves to be muted because we're not sure of what we believe anymore. I'm not a reporter or a politician or an analyst, and therefore my knowledge base of the reality on the ground is cursory. But as a rabbi, my point of authority comes less from arguing the facts and more about human dignity and the value of each person's life. If justice comes from the intersection of truth and love, what do we get when we apply that lens to both sides of the story? When we see love and truth only being applied to one part, we've got to talk about it. And if it's happening in our own community, then how much more painful and costly and necessary is it to speak into that silence? Admittedly, I am tempted by the binary story. To me, Israel's a homeland, a democratic ally, and a refuge for my people. My great-uncle Lou was 14 years old when he fled Nazi Germany and arrived in Palestine, the one place in the world at that time that received Jewish people without condition. Without Israel, part of my family tree would not exist. American Jews have reason to be concerned for our safety, particularly since there has been a 60% rise in anti-Semitic sentiments and hate crimes since 2017. The concern that our history might repeat itself dwells deep within the Jewish psyche. I love Israel. I believe in her right to exist. And I believe that the Jewish people require a place of refuge and homeland. And just as true, and just as strongly, I condemn the Israeli government policies on settlements, the oppression and death of Palestinians, and I believe in a vision of a promised land. But my promised land doesn't require the suffering of others. My Zionism, just like my American patriotism, is nuanced, a mixture of pride and connection and love and disgust and frustration. I understand that the fascism present in the Israeli government is something that's not unique to Israel and has recently been present in our own country as well too. None of our governments are innocent of making problematic choices. So I can only speak for myself, and I certainly don't speak for all Jews or all Zionists. I'm not sure that any of us can speak for all of the many identities that each of us carry. However, I can criticize Israel, decry crimes committed by the government on her soil, support Palestinians, and still be a faithful Jew and Zionist. Justice, reconciliation, and pursuit of truth require love for complexity. We are in a moment in our city, in our country, and world that is bigger than politics or position, and our power in this moment lies in our ability to resist the temptation of absolutism and justification of injustice, and instead choose the path of nuance. Thank you for listening to this very imperfect sermon. Tonight's one of the ways I'm trying to break through issues that feel absolute and break a personal boundary on what it feels like a binary issue in my own heart. Because if there's any hope for peace, not just in the Middle East, but in all places where strife exists, it will be through living more nuanced lives, engaging in impossible conversations, and a willingness to publicly cry out when injustice occurs. Shabbat Shalom.
This is my earth, and I live in it. It's 1/3 earth and 2/3 water. It rotates and revolves in space at rather an impressive pace and never even messes up my hair. And the weirdest thing about it is the force created by its spins, the force that stops the chaos rushing in. This is my earth, and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect. This is my house, and I live in it. It's full of cracks and photographs, and we bought it from a guy who bought it from a guy who bought it from a guy whose granddad left it to him. And the weirdest thing about the house has locks to keep the baddies out, but they're mostly used to lock ourselves in. This is my house, and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect. This is my body, and I live in it. It's 56 and 6 months old, and it's changed a lot since it was new. It's done stuff it wasn't built to do. I often try to fill it up with wine. And the weirdest thing about it is I spend so much time hating it, but it never says a bad word about me. This is my body, fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect. This is my brain, and I live in it. It's full of love and bad song lyrics. It's tucked away behind my eyes, where all my messed up thoughts can hide. 'Cause God forbid I hurt somebody. And the weirdest thing about a mind is all the answers that you find are just the base of some new cliche. This is my body, and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. There's a sliver of moon climbing over the hill. The night's too big to swallow, it's too tough to kill. You're too footsore to run, and you're too worn to fight. So you close your eyes and wait for the light. You sat in the garden with your back to the wall, afraid to sit pretty, afraid to stand tall. You ate of the fruit, still you don't know what's right. So you close your eyes and wait for the light. Wait for the light, wait for the light. Like a babe in the cradle with the shutters drawn tight. When the oil in your lamp won't last the night, you just close your eyes and wait for the light. In a fallow field waiting till spring is in sight. Oh, you sag and you sing and you wait in the night. 'Cause your heart is a sparrow, it's too tired to take flight. So you close your eyes and wait for the light. Wait for the light, oh wait for the light. Close your eyes and wait for the light. When you hear the chain creaking and the collar seems tight, you just close your eyes and wait for the light. Wait for the light, wait for the light. Close your eyes and wait for the light. Through the smoke of the battle, when there's no land in sight, you just close your eyes and wait for the light.
We continue with Psalm 23. First, I'm going to share the Hebrew of the psalm and then the English translation as interpreted by Rabbi Richard Levy of blessed memory. Mizmor David, Adonai ro'i lachzar, binot deshet yarbitzeni. Almei minuchot yanaleni nashi yoshvev yancheni, v'gmalik tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech betzetz al mavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, for you are with me. Shivtecha umishantecha hemenechamuni, ta'roch lefanai shalcha neget sa'arai, dishanta v'ashemen rosi kosi ravayai. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni, kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'vei Adonai la'orach yamim. Adonai, my shepherd, I lack for nothing. In meadows thick with grass, you lay me down. Across streams serene, you guide me. My life, you restore. Leading me serenely in well-worn paths of justice to glorify your name. And even when I walk in a valley dark as death's shadow, I shall fear no ferocity. For you are with me, your staff and your walking stick, they reassure me. You set a table before me along with my enemies. You rain rich oils round my head, and my cup that's overflowing for certain. Goodness and the love of your covenant will run after me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in God's house for long days. Long, long days. We mourn the recent passing of Doris Doctor, beloved founding member of Temple Sholom, Rhoda Meyer, beloved wife of Dr. Meyer, and Rhoda Mayerson, beloved mother of Neil Mayerson. We also acknowledge and grieve the recent deaths in Israel and Palestine, and we grieve the unnecessary loss of life and pray for a speedy ceasefire. We commemorate the anniversaries of the passing, the yahrzeits of Jack Goffman, Bertha Lebovich, Margaret Fraser, Joanne Windershine Bass, Jessie Frieden, Martha Huff, Eleanor Dillon, Eva Bernstein, Cynthia Jane Grubbs, Sylvia Kaufman, Elaine Rogovin, Anne Vallon, Agnes Carson, Benita Gail Rosenblum, Bertha Lauder, Michael Goldfeder, Michael Slobodnik. May all of their memories be a blessing. If you're comfortable, you can rise, or you can just rise in your seat and let the air come through you as we continue with our prayer of affirmation and mourning, the Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'kadash shemei Rabba, v'alma divrach hiruteh v'amlich machuteh, v'chayachon uv'yomachon uv'chayeh dachol beit Yisrael, b'galav v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam umei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kedusha brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the memories be a blessing. As we conclude, a special thanks to our incredible musicians, Brooklyn Ray for her gorgeous vocals, Dan Dorff on drums, Baba Miller with percussion, Brooks on bass, sound and recording, and this gorgeous space at the Monastery Studios, Jake at Cricket Media for making the video production and editing possible, and a special heartfelt thanks for the amazing artistry, genius, and partnership that we have in Rich Hordinski. Thank you to our Temple Shalom staff team and to each of you who connect in patience and share with us all your words of support. Thank you for keeping us and one another going in this crazy season. A special reminder that this Sunday is the holiday of Shavuot. It's the holiday where we commemorate the receiving of Torah. And Temple Shalom is hosting a creative, interacting, story and song-filled Shavuot experience with the help of Bespoken Live and Joey Taylor. It's going to be really different and really amazing. It's this Sunday at 6 p.m. Just RSVP through our social media on our website to receive the Zoom login. I hope you'll join us because I think it's really going to be amazing and different. But as we conclude, I'd love to leave you a blessing like we always do. So do whatever feels natural to you to receive a blessing. You can put your hands out. You can put your hands on your head like maybe your parents did. You can give yourself a hug. You can take a knee. Whatever feels right to you to feel like you're receiving this ancient blessing of our people. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav alecha. And when God's light does shine upon you, may you be reminded that you are needed and loved for exactly who you are, that there's plenty of nuance out there to be taken in, and that we want your truth. V'yasem lecha shalom, and may that truth bring you peace and well-being. Shabbat shalom.
The shutters drawn tight, when the oil in your lamp won't last the night, you just close your eyes and wait for